The 4th and 5th editions of the game are very similar to each other, but quite different from the 3rd. 5th edition in particular became pejoratively known as Hero Hammer, because of the imbalance between the very powerful heroes, monsters, and wizards of the game, and blocks of troops which existed effectively as cannon fodder. Both editions of the game were sold as box sets containing not only the rulebooks and a variety of other player aids, but also sufficient plastic miniatures to be able to play the game out of the box. The rules underwent a rewrite compared to 3rd edition, and a completely reworked magic system was produced, which was available as a boxed expansion set. Rather than selecting these spells, they are drawn at random, and the magic phase was based on the play of these cards, making Magic a bit of a game within a game. The magic system was further expanded with the Arcane Magic box set, and the magic element of the Chaos box set. The 4th edition was also the first edition to enforce the use of army lists in the form of separate Warhammer army books for separate racial groupings. These books prescribed for each army a limited number of unit choices, specifying limits on the amount of points that could be spent on characters, troops, monsters, and so on. The books also included background on the particular army, illustrations and photographs showing the models that have remained with the game throughout the updates with the rules. The 5th edition also won the Origins Award for Best Fantasy or Sci-Fi Fiction Miniatures Rules of 1996. The magic system was reworked and re-released in December 1996 as a single box covering the magic for all the armies. The magic system was toned down, with the spell casting limited to the player's own turn. The multiple card packs of the Colors of Magic system was replaced by 20 battle magic spell cards, but the color magic spells were in the rulebook for players to use if they wanted. Several box campaign packs were produced. Tears of Isha, for example, gave a campaign for the High Elves and included a card building to assemble. Likewise, the Orc and Goblin themed campaign, Idol of Gork, included card idols of Gork and Mork. The others were Circle of Blood, Grudge of Drong, and Perilius Quest. The 4th edition featured High Elves vs. Goblins. The 5th edition, released in 1996, reintroduced the Bretonnian forces, which had been left out of the 4th edition, and reworked the slant into heavily create the Lizardmen armies. The 6th edition was also published in a box with a soft-covered rulebook and miniatures, Orcs and Empire. The rulebook was also available for separate sale, hardcover in the first printing and softcover after that. After the 5th edition, this edition puts the emphasis back on troop movement and combat. Heroes and wizards were still important, but became incapable of winning games in their own right. There was also an all-new magic system based on dice rolling. The current 7th edition rules were released on September 9th, 2006. It is available in two forms, as a single hardback rulebook for established gamers, and a box set complete with over 100 plastic miniatures, dwarves, and goblins. The Battle for Skulls Past Supplement book, and a softcover rulebook that has less artwork and background material than the hardback version. The smaller rulebook from the box set is approximately half the size of the large book in both size of the cover and page count. The basic rules and advanced rules sections of both books are identical in text, layout, illustrations, credits, page numbering, and ISBN. Warmaster is a tabletop wargame created by Rick Priestley, published by Specialist Games, a division of Games Workshop, and set within the Warhammer Fantasy setting. It is different from Warhammer Fantasy Battles in both appearance and gameplay. It uses smaller 10mm miniatures. Basic troops are on stands, of which typically 3 make a unit. Generals, heroes, and wizards are mounted individually or within their own retinue. Gameplay focuses on command and control. While magic is used in the game, its effects on the game are limited. The game is designed to focus on the general's ability to command, rather than the army's ability to fight. Players of the game say it avoids common criticisms of Games Workshop's Warhammer games, that battles are so often decided based on army selection rather than the player's skill in battle. Man of War is now an out-of-print tabletop wargame. The game was set in the same realm as Warhammer Fantasy as used as Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and included most of the factions from that setting. Other races from the Warhammer world were not included, either because they were lacking seafaring abilities, such as Wood Elves, or missing from the main factions at the time, such as Ogres and Lizardmen. Man of War dealt with the sea battles of the Warhammer world, each player controlling a fleet of model ships. The game typically used a small number of models, from half a dozen to a dozen models per player. with each model having a corresponding template to record damage, crew levels, and outbreaks of fire among other bookkeeping activities. In this regard, the game's mechanic provided some limiting factors. Even the most innovations were present, like alternate unit activation. As we get to the end of our retrospective, let's do a rundown of the current 16 active armies in Warhammer. Beasts of Chaos, formerly part of the Chaos Army, also called Beastmen. Britonia. Demons of Chaos. Dark Elves. Dogs of War Mercenaries. Dwarves. Empire, also known as the Empire of Man. Hordes of Chaos, also known as Chaos Mortals. High Elves. Lizardmen. Ogre Kingdoms. Orcs and Goblins. Skaven. Tomb Kings, also referred to as the Tomb Kings of Khemri in the 6th edition rulebook, and the Tomb Kings of Nehekara in the supplements and Games Workshop website. Vampire Counts, and Wood Elves. There are 17 races if you also count the Araby army, which is currently a Warmaster-only race. Besides the current active armies, here's a rundown of races that have been removed from the Warhammer game, and in some cases completely from the lore. The Amazons. The Arachnitids. Chaos Dwarves. Though no longer available as a regular army, they are still a playable race. Furamir. Giants of Albion. Half-Orcs. Hobgoblins. Kislev. Can be used as part of the Empire army, so the rules are still available. Nippon. Norse. Pygmies. Slan, which are now replaced by the Lizardmen. Undead, which are now replaced by Tomb Kings and Vampire Counts. And the Zote. Besides Chaos, they are one of the first Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k crossover armies. We hope this provided an in-depth look into the history of Warhammer. For veteran or new players alike, Warhammer is a game that has brought out some of the best moments. If it wasn't for a small group of guys with an idea many years ago while dungeon crawling, the hobby today would be very different. We thank Games Workshop and the many hobbyists who support the hobby and kept it going 25 years strong. We thank you for watching our Warhammer 25th Anniversary Retrospective. From myself and the rest of the Miniatures Wargaming Union, keep those dice rolling.